Yeah, so I don't think the markets have bottomed yet. The equity markets certainly have not. I think Bitcoin and crypto is closer to bottoming than the stock market, mainly because I think you have that goldish type safety play that eventually Bitcoin will turn into, right? So as the macro gets worse and worse, and people get scared of being in stocks and the economy, the idea of turning towards a Bitcoin definitely makes a lot of sense. We're not there yet, so I want people to understand that. But at some point, 12, 13,000, wherever it may be, I do think Bitcoin bottoms out and then starts to grind up. The macro is going to be a tricky thing. I really think we're in for a long period recession, mainly because the Fed can't bail us out. If we look at the past 10, 20 years, every recession or every market dip like the COVID collapse, the Fed was just printing money. Well, that was great when we have 2% inflation or less, but now we have 8%. And even if it drops to 4, how does the Fed print us out of a recession at 4, which would cause inflation to potentially spike to 20%? So it's going to be one of these longer periods, which I think is a great opportunity for crypto overall, because you're going to see these new technologies, these other ways to kind of figure things out coming to the forefront. So I would say just prepare. People should prepare for still some more volatility. Maybe another next leg lower in Bitcoin, but the buying opportunity is coming. There's a level I'm watching for a potential near-term breakout. Now, let's not fool ourselves. The bigger pattern is still bearish. So you have the big drop and the same kind of thing as chain link going on. But look at this trend line from this pivot to this pivot high to this pivot high right down. And look at how Bitcoin's trying to break out. If it can break above this, I think you get a short-term short squeeze where this could at least see 22.5, maybe even 25,000. So again, that's kind of how I'm favoring. I think there's a lot of bearishness because of how dead Bitcoin has been. And I think you might get some sort of breakout here in the near term. I don't think it's a long-term breakout. I still think the longer term, you're still stuck inside of this longer-term range, which is bearish. But it doesn't mean as a trader, I can't make money in the near term on the long side if we get a breakout. So short term would be neutral to bullish, I would say. Longer term, over the next couple months into year end, I'd be worried that by year end it starts breaking lower again. I mean, it's one of those things where we all know when everyone starts talking about a level, that's where it's like, okay, well, it's either not going to get there or it's going to go below that level. So I still think, I've been racking my brain and I'm like, okay, well, if the stock market still has like 30% downside, which I think it does, how does Bitcoin not at least go down 30% or more, right? So it's a tricky scenario here. I would love to see that pivot on Bitcoin where it starts to go up when the stock market goes down, but it doesn't seem quite yet to have that maturity of Bitcoin at this point. I think for us to get to that point, number one, we need to see more maturity in the crypto sector. So we look at an asset like Bitcoin that's only 13 years old, right? So it's very young in the scheme of like the stock market. I mean, if you even looking at just Apple's been around since the 80s. So it's, 40 plus year old company. So I think you need to see that. I also think you have to see regulation. I know everyone loves the decentralization aspect, but at the same time, if you're going to actually turn Bitcoin and other cryptos into like a safety haven, then you need to know the rules. I need to know the rules, right? So I'm allocating some of my capital towards crypto, but at the same time, there's no way I'm putting like a few $1 million in crypto because I don't know what the heck the government's going to do. Right. And I don't want to be caught with my pants down, if you will, in that scenario where they come out with strict rules and Bitcoin dumps out by 80%. I don't think that's going to happen. But the point is that you have fiduciary responsibilities from a hedge fund perspective, pension funds, and that's the money we need to attract to crypto. You get pension funds alone to buy in like 2% of their pension fund into Bitcoin, and you're at like 300,000 overnight, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the only way that's going to happen is if we get the rules. Like, just give us the freaking rules already. Don't drag this out, because honestly, that's what's hurting crypto right now, is that we just don't know what rules we have to play by. The first thing is, right, so as soon as I think the SEC will approve the ETF for spot, as soon as they lay out the groundwork. They probably won't do it ahead of time because, like, imagine if they allow the ETF to come to market, you get a bunch of investors in there, and then they throw a curveball of like regulation that we didn't expect, and then everyone who just invested loses like 80% of their money or something like that. So I think they'll wait for that regulation first. And then as soon as that's in place, as soon as they kind of announce it, I think within probably like 3 to 6 months, you'll see an approved spot spot ETF. So I think that's exciting. That's going to give investors in stocks, like people that don't have crypto accounts, which, let's be fair, there's still a massive amount of people that don't invest in any crypto.
Yeah.
That's going to give them an avenue of comfort to invest. And you'll probably see like I've even envisioned a gold Bitcoin ETF, like where it kind of like there's a allocation into gold. And so, I mean, it could almost draw you into this dual safety haven, right? So you think it's the digital gold, but then you have the actual gold, and it could be kind of a cool idea too. Though there's so many opportunities out there once that spot ETF is approved. You're basically in what we would refer to as a wedge pattern, right? So you have this line here sloping down, then this one connecting the recent lows, and you're hovering right on support. So for me, it's one of those scenarios where, kind of like a couple of the other ones we looked at, is that as long as it holds this line, you look to attack this area here, and if it can break out, then you start heading up to the next resistance, which is a line from the all-time high on ETH down to this secondary high, which looks to me to be around 1750 or so up here.